different reason. Everybody is going to use their freedom in a different way, but we all should join in supporting freedom. We accept this all the time. We accept this all the time on our religious values. Many people have different religious values, different churches, different beliefs. Some are atheists. But if we believe in freedom, we allow people to do that. It should be that way in social affairs as well. Concept of freedom divided into pieces. The founders had it together right. Personal liberty and social liberty and economic liberty was all one and the same. They never talked about it. But now we have a group defend economic liberty to a degree, and they get sloppy with that. And then another group will get and say, well, we're going to protect civil liberties, and I'm a civil libertarian, and we're going to take care of that. But it's one and the same. And when you see this come about, it's not going to be a Republican revolution. It's not going to be a Democratic revolution. It's going to be a revolution of all the people coming together to make backwards, that it's only beginning the understanding of liberty. It's only a couple hundred years of a real test. That they are the past, we are the future as far as I'm But good things are happening in the country, and one is that people like you are very numerous and growing in numbers. They're all over the country. This week we've been talking on the campuses and bringing people out, and we get usually small crowds of 3,000, 4,000 up to 8,000. But one day when we had a very nice rally, I think it was one of the very big ones in California, I anxiously looked at the internet the next morning and the beginning, and the article, the headline was, "Where's Ron Paul? Where is he?" Well, sometimes they would like to ignore us, but I think they're going to hear from us loud and clear. Which I use a lot, and that is, an idea whose time has come can't be stopped by any army. Ideas are powerful and have consequences. Bad ideas have bad consequences. We put up with a lot of bad ideas, and the 20th century was a bad century because there was a lot of fighting and killing needlessly. We need a new century where we can talk more about peace and prosperity and the rule of law. That's what we need. So many are coming to this conclusion that these ideas are alive and well on the college campuses. But there's a lot of people who come now, and even the media is recognizing it's not only those teenagers and young college kids, it's a lot of people. A lot of people worry about it because if they take a vote and they say, well, 51%, we don't have 51% to pursue these beliefs. The founders knew this and they understood it, and it's estimated that maybe 7 or 8% of the people really believed and understood what the revolution was all about, what freedom was all about. But today our number is even much better than that, and the numbers are growing. But as Benjamin Franklin said, Franklin said, that what you need is an irate, powerless minority creative in the minds of men. They've been around now for 30 years or so. I get a lot of credit, which I think is excessive because many more individuals have done so much hard work in the intellectual community. And it has to happen. Just as Keynesianism was an intellectual revolution and brought us havoc for 100 years. But even in the 20s and early 30s, the persistence was, yes, we still believed in free enterprise and the gold standard and all this, but behind the scenes, the intellectual community was saying, no, it's fascism and communism and socialism and interventionism and welfareism and inflationism and central banks, and they won the day. But they're losing now because their system is obviously failing and the people know it. Change our policies. We need to change the spending. I'm for cutting a lot of spending, as I said. But you know, even under those conditions, I still have priorities. If we work our way out of it, we could have priorities and try to take care of those who have been taught to be so dependent. You don't need to start on food stamps. I think you should start on all the foreign spending. There's absolute necessity to go about the world spreading our goodness, and they call it spreading our exceptionalism. And this has been going on since Woodrow Wilson. You know, make the world safe for democracy. Some people have named this view of Jacobinism. You know, this idea that we can force people to be good. Well, I'll tell you what. We have been an exceptional nation. We at one time understood property rights and monetary policy and contract rights, limited government, and yet today. We have lost that. But if you are an exceptional nation, if we are to be an exceptional nation, people will want to emulate it. They'll want to copy us. You can't go overseas and tell them, do this or if you do it, we'll give you money. If you don't do it, we'll bomb you. That's not the way to change the world. The argument was used against legalizing freedom of choice in society. When people hurt each other and damage each other, obviously that's the purpose of government, to take care of those problems. But when people spend their money in a way that you don't approve or have a lifestyle that you don't approve of, and you say the government has to come in and change it, then all of a sudden, you know, what we do is we just get into more and more trouble. And people will say, well, I can't allow people to spend their money. They might not do it wisely. I can't allow them to do this. They might become a gambler. It'll be all my fault because I allow them to do this. But, you know, by legalizing something and legalizing freedom of choice, you don't endorse it. Because people use their religion in a way you don't want to. You don't endorse their religion. Personally, is thinking about striving for excellence and virtue and dealing with spiritual life. And that should be in the business of government. And under those conditions, though, government should just stay out of it. Yeah. We can accept that for our spiritual life and our intellectual life. Why is it that we automatically say we need the FDA to tell us everything we ever do about putting weapons in our You know, I've talked for a long time about the war on drugs. I think the war on drugs has been a total failure. Know that drug addiction of prescription drugs is a lot worse than illegal drugs. I also know that addiction should be a crime, and we shouldn't throw people in prison that didn't commit a violent crime. the 15th Amendment, and, just think of the difference in that period of time. They actually amended the Constitution to change this and give the power to the government. Today, the government just doesn't never think about it. But that was a total failure, so people woke up and said we had to repeal the prohibition. And today, though, I think we're making great progress. When you see Pat Robertson coming out and saying, hey, let's look at this more carefully. And he's like, the very concerned about saying drugs are dangerous, but there's a lot of danger. Yeah. Who's responsible for taking you against yourself? When the government thinks they can do that, they'll regulate every single thing you do. They'll tell you how much salt you can put on your food. But not only doesn't it work, it costs a lot of money, but it's also one of the excuses for the violation of our civil liberties. And guess what? Guess who some of the organized efforts are against the changes in drug laws? Alcohol companies. They don't want people using something in place of alcohol. Also the drug companies. What if you started using something that you could grow in your backyard? You didn't buy all those expensive drugs. Milk, you might be prohibited by the federal government. Not just because there's such a poor understanding of the war on drugs. There was a product, a commercial product that we had for years. The founders grew it in their backyards and in their fields, and we used it for World War II. But because of the war on drugs, they prohibited this country from growing hemp. One of their excuses is they want to look like marijuana. They say they better not do it. I think, yeah, but if somebody wanted to get high on hemp, they'd have to smoke a cigar as big as a phone pole. So once again, back to our common, who's going to make up our minds? But all of this freedom doesn't work, though, unless we do one thing. We have to assume responsibility for ourselves. And they bail out the big guys. If the government is always the protector of last resort, if you do something that makes no sense and you do harm to yourself, you should be able to come and coerce your neighbor to take care of you. So freedom does imply responsibility. John Adams argued the case that if we became a less moral society, an immoral society cannot have liberty because they abuse it. And in many ways, I think this is what's been happening to us. I think a lot about the abortion issue and the problems that we had there. Well, the laws were, abortions were done in the 60s illegally. So the law wasn't changed. What happened is the attitude was changed and the laws were changed. So the laws do reflect the people. So many of our problems is a reflection of, our moral behavior. And so there's a lot of responsibility on us as individuals. And assuming this responsibility is crucial. But to assume that the government is always going to be there for us to take care of it, it doesn't work. And the more the government is involved, they say, well, if you do such and such, that'll be a cost to government. Well, the government is nothing more than a thief in the night that comes and redistributes wealth. The most important thing we do to carry on this revolution is to recognize that we live in dangerous time and recognize that there's a larger number than ever who now are joining in the freedom movement and believe in individual liberty, believe in the rule of law. And therefore, we have a responsibility. Individuals like you that would come out and listen to a talk like this are different than the average person. The average person is home doing something else, and they may vote, and if they do vote, they might not ask whom they're going to vote for until the day before they vote. But the individuals like you who become knowledgeable and understand the problems, I believe you have a greater responsibility. You know, if you have your head in your sand, you can't get money for a whole lot. I think the most important thing is to become knowledgeable, believe in it, and if you're prepared to understand what liberty is all about and you want to participate, people will ask me, what should I do? Where should I go? Well, if you're prepared and you have credible evidence that you're convinced, somebody will make use of your talents. And we all have different talents. We all have different responsibilities. But if nothing else, we have responsibility for ourselves. Just think if everybody took care of themselves, what a wonderful place this world would be. Ourselves and our families and our neighbors and local governments permissible under the Constitution. We have responsibilities that in our churches. There's a lot that can be done, and there's so much goodness out there. So we really want a healthy economy where there are more rich people, because what are they going to do with their money? They're going to help people. The money would be there. There would be a greater amount of wealth, but we have destroyed the wealth machine in this country. And I don't think very many people I know in Washington understand how serious it is, because they think they can borrow and spend and print money is going to last forever. I think you know differently. I think you know how desperately we need a change, and I thank you very much for participating in this